see that, then that's a red flag right away.
I was thinking, it's like kind of not local.
I want good or great. I don't want good enough. I would always set aside at least, I would say $1,000. In Alberta, we're not quite there yet. That'll cost you $5,000. Yeah. And if it has screws in it, something's wrong. And if supervision wasn't done properly, then maybe the person running the site wasn't done properly. Maybe I have never been out of work as a sheet metal worker.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Talks, and as usual it's a place where you can find the information which can help you to make better decision on how to choose your future home. And today I have a great guest, Nate Wawrzonek. He's a HVAC journeyman. Yeah, he's been doing since 2015, and now he's an instructor in Said. He will tell us a lot about his point of view on this trade and what we can find and what we can spot and what we have to take into consideration when we come into the house and try to figure out what's happening and what is good and what is bad. So, Nate, thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Alex.
I'm really glad to have you today, and it's real nice. And by the way, today is a holiday, and this guy decided to help us and share his knowledge and expertise instead of having his day off and just enjoy this sunny day. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
Nate, would you mind just sharing with us how did you get into this trade and
Sure.
What exactly you enjoy by doing this stuff?
Sure. So my technical designation is sheet metal worker. So that's the Red Seal Journey Person certificate that I have is Red Seal sheet metal worker and gas fitter B, but that's another story. And how I got into it in 2015, I was done my football playing career, which I got to do at University of Alberta, which was great. And then I had no idea what I wanted to do after. So I had no idea what I wanted to do after. And one of our sponsors for the team he ran a mechanical company. And they ran refrigeration mechanics, they ran plumbers, and they ran sheet metal workers. And I was like, oh, man, you know what sounds great? Like being a refrigeration mechanic. I think I would love to be a refrigeration mechanic. And he's like, yeah, that's a great trade. It's not really what we're looking for right now. So like, if you want to pick something else, so yeah, sure. I like working with my hands. Like I think I could do plumbing. I think I would do plumbing really well. I think I would love plumbing. He's like, yeah, plumbing is a great trade. Awesome trade. We really need sheet metal workers right now. And I'm just like, oh, sounds good. I'll pick sheet metal then. And it's a funny kind of thing in of all sheet metal workers, nobody picks sheet metal. Sheet metal picks them, right? So sheet metal picked me. And I've had nothing but great experience since. It's been since 2015, so 11 years around now. And it's been a great trade to work with your hands, get to do some math, which everybody hates when they're young, but when it comes naturally now. It didn't at first, but it comes naturally now, and I really like doing it. And I like the precision. I like how good it can look. It doesn't always look good, but sometimes I try to make it look my best all the time. Yeah. And I find it like to be one of the more, I guess, artistic trades where you get to really kind of make your stuff is often so exposed. So it gets to look really good for everyone that comes through a restaurant or a building or even in your furnace room at home.
Yeah. So you've been working at commercial and residential at both sides, right? So
yeah.
You have experience in
Yeah, so I've done residential, I've done furnaces, I've done commercial, lots of big buildings, and small buildings, restaurants, hotels. I got to work on Rogers Place in Edmonton, which was a really good experience when it was being built. And yeah, lots of other industrial experience as well, and tons of welding, kitchen exhaust, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And what was the biggest issue or like difficulties for you? It was the education itself, or maybe just the first years in the field?
I really like the education part. I had nothing but good things to say about both Nate and Sate, which I went to both throughout my apprenticeship training, and I just found them both very, very valuable. All 4 years were very valuable. You learn a lot of different things. It's a very broad trade. So you have to learn about furnaces. You have to learn about air conditioners. You have to learn about how to make certain fittings, specialty fittings where you have to lay out with geometry and math. It can take a lot of thinking, but also a lot of hands-on skill. You got to learn welding, all sorts of welding, from aluminum welding, which is TIG, and MIG as well, which is just mild steel welding. A lot of fancy stuff, and just there's so much to learn in this trade, and I wouldn't have changed anything for the world. I really enjoyed all the stuff that I learned.
That's probably the best way when you enjoy and you have passion to the work you are doing. It's great. What else you can desire for yourself, right?
Of course, yeah.
And you've seen so many things, so maybe you can specify where exactly the quality usually gets lost. Because again, you mentioned the welding, you mentioned
So I think the quality gets lost sometimes in the speed, which when you're a first year apprentice, you absolutely want to have that speed right quick. You see somebody who's been in the trade 20 years and you want to keep up with them. Like I'll tell you now, you can't do it. They have 20 years of practice, right? 20 years of practicing, getting better, and then getting faster. So I think the speed is where it's most lost, and sometimes companies will put such hard timelines and really pressure you to do it faster, and that doesn't always mean do it better, right? So when you get to a certain point in your experience, you can do it good and fast. But you can't ask somebody who is so new in the trade to do it good and fast. And I feel like there's a lot of people who just keep asking and asking and asking for that speed, and they're a little bit more lacking on the quality of side of things.
We can see it more nowadays, right? Because the pace of construction is so high.
Yes.
It's going up and up and up.
It's going up and up and up, yeah.
And more people are coming in, new people. As you mentioned, they have to get a little bit more time to learn, to get used to doing this stuff.
Yeah.
They just don't have that privilege, unfortunately.
And exactly. They don't have the privilege to take that time. And I feel like a lot of people, and I will not say this about all people, especially all journey people in the trade. I will say that there's a lot of people who will push and push and push, especially young apprentices or just new apprentices in general. And you don't need to necessarily push them for speed if you haven't spent the time to teach them how to do it well first.
Sure. So take at least part of responsibility on yourself. Right?
Of course,
yeah.
I always take time to, at least I do my best, always take time to teach new apprentices how to do something right. And to be honest, it saves me time. It saves the company time. It saves the company money in the long run because there'll be less mistakes. They'll be able to do it faster next time because they're getting that practice and they're getting the chance to do it right the first time.
Absolutely. And again, switching to the buildings itself. So, for example, when you come into the house or condo, it doesn't matter, what will be the red flags for you just to spot and just to look for?
Oftentimes, there is typically a gas fitting inspection, which will inspect the gas lines going to the furnace or whatever kind of heater you have, and then the ventilation, usually the ventilation from the furnace and from the hot water tank. It's usually around the same, and it can often be tied in together. Those things are usually free and clear because they've been inspected by usually a city inspector, and they typically do a pretty good job. So I'm looking for other things that may be red flags that I'll see in the exposed side of things, and then I'll be able to kind of infer what may be behind the drywall or in the ceiling space that I can't see. So if I see something that's done wrong, or just done too quickly, again, this comes back to the speed thing. Everybody wants speed. So you'll sometimes see your ductwork and it'll be hung to something that isn't the joist, the wooden beams above the furnace. And if it's not hung to that and it's hung to a sprinkler line or it's hung to or electrical or something like that, I'm sure you've seen it. Yeah. And if you see that, then that's a red flag right away, because that means that there's probably more spots that they did similar things. And those could be leaks in your ventilation. They could be just the support. If something ever gives way, then you're having more weight and more things go wrong because everything's just hung off each other instead of all being hung off the same support place, right? So I think when you see stuff like that, and even when you see things done too quickly, if you notice a problem with the drywall or a problem with your countertops or a problem with the flooring, then that's a good sign that there may be something else issue with the mechanical as well. So if I see some drywall that wasn't taking the time to push that, then if they didn't call that out and have them fix that, then how many things could have gone wrong with the electrical, with the furnace, with the ductwork, with anything like that.
So just summarizing, nobody has to narrow the views just to some particular spots. Just look wide and broadly into just your house at all, and try to look what else is done improperly, right?
Exactly. If you notice that, if I notice that, if I notice things that are outside of my scope in my trade, then somebody else did too, who's probably an expert in that trade, and they thought it was good enough. And good enough is not necessarily good enough for you or I or anybody who's buying that house, right? It's like, I don't necessarily want to live in a place that this was good enough. This was good enough. I want good or great. I don't want good enough.
Yeah, you want somebody to do the job like it's their house, right?
Yes, exactly.
If they're gonna live there, but not like someone else.
Exactly.
And can you maybe like roughly numbers? How often do you see like the HVAC system installed improperly? Maybe 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 50.
Sure. So I see it a lot, right? But like so that's what I go to when I go to fix something. Something's wrong. So when I go to see something, I see it wrong. But like if I'm going right now, me and my wife are looking to buy a new house. We're looking at places, and some of them are built in the 70s, some of them are built in the 80s, some of them are built newer. And what it comes down to is you'll see different spots where things were done right. And then you can look at the next, like, oh, okay, well, this place was built in the 80s. This would have been a pretty nice home in the 80s. This is what it should look like. Does that make sense? Because when you see what it should look like, you can kind of take that and take pictures of everything, right? Take pictures of everything. Take that and look at your next place, and it's like, oh, that looks a little different. Is what's different okay? So I see a lot of bad places. The places that I've looked at for the most part, out of all the houses I've looked at, and we've probably looked at close to 80 right now, probably seen like 1 or 2 minor issues, honestly. And those are houses that are being ready to be sold, right? So I'm not seeing a ton of problems.
That's good. I mean, even as you mentioned that you usually go to the places which has
Yeah.
some problem.
Yeah.
You haven't seen so many of them, which has really good that situation.
Yeah.
And again, we asked a lot about the quality and about the attitude of the like trade people to the work which they are doing. How do you think what separate or what differentiate like really good and great people from like the average? Because again, you the instructor at Said, you've seen how the people are going through the old school, right? From the grade 1, I mean from the first year up to the 4th year.
Yeah.
And you probably mentioned or notice how they change or what separates one of the best one from like average in the group.
I would say it just comes down to attention to detail. And anybody can have that, whether you're 18 or whether you're 60, just trying something new. Because all sorts of people come through the trade, and sometimes they start later in life, and that's totally fine. And some of those people are great. And some of the people who are 18 are great. And what it comes down to is attention to detail and just the level that of which they care about it. Because realistically, I view it as everything that I install, essentially my name is on. You know what I mean? Like maybe you walk into a house that I did and my name isn't physically on it, but I feel like it is in some way. Like this could come back to me, and I want somebody to see that and think like, oh, this is done really well. And I may never hear that from somebody else, but the fact that no problems come back to me is also a great sign, right? So if I don't have to go back to a house that I did, I feel very good about it. So
especially if you're trying to build your own business.
Exactly.
That's the best way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The word of mouth.
Yeah.
The best
right?
ad which you can get.
Exactly. So again, just attention to detail. And I think that's really what separates what is good enough versus what's great. So.
Got it. So if we come back to the house, so there are really not so many spots, but you can see the furnace, for example. Yeah. So, and what you can look at and see and say, okay, this is good. Oh, this is going to fail soon.
Sure. So unfortunately with furnaces, they can kind of go anytime, right? If something's sounding wrong to you, like, okay, this is louder than usual. Sounds like something's maybe caught in the fan, the blower motor, and it's making an odd noise, then something's probably wrong. Like realistically, when I go into it, I know some of the stuff, but like if something sounds off or something sounds abnormal or anything like that, then most likely something is wrong. And you're better to make that call to the furnace repair guy at -5 rather than -30, right? because they're going to be super busy at minus 30 and maybe they can't get to your house for 24 hours, right? Whereas if it's minus 5, maybe they're not so busy and they can come right away. So, and then you don't have to worry about it when it's minus 30 and your house is getting cold and your pipes are going to burst, and you're better off in calling them when you first hear that noise rather than, oh, okay, it's supposed to be minus 50 this weekend and what are we going to do?
So we can hear the problem.
You can typically hear
we
it.
spot like visually something?
Visually, it's a little bit tougher. A couple kind of common problems you will hear, so it'll sound like something's wrong, and also if it's cycling a lot, so that means your furnace is turning on and then off right away, and then on again and then off right away. That's a common problem, and that would typically mean that something's being tripped so that it will not be able to cycle heat through your house, or if the heat's on at all. So you'll notice if your thermostat is set to 22 or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, it's getting a little colder in here. It's probably only like plus 16. And all of a sudden, like, what's going on? Just easy signs like that. So what I do when I go into a new house, or I'm checking something out and I'm serious about purchasing this, I usually turn the thermostat up as high as it goes, and then make sure that it cycles on and it's sounding okay and everything's working and I'm getting air to all the different vents. Those are the easiest checks that you can make as a home buyer, and you'll definitely be able to hear the furnace turn on. You'll be able to make sure that the hot air is going to each of those vents, all the rooms, because sometimes it's just a small issue, but sometimes it doesn't make it to a far room, right? So maybe your kid's room is not getting heated properly, and you don't want your kids sitting in minus 16, right? Especially like a newborn or something like that. So I think those are some simple tricks that you can do.
And about this situation, for example, the forest room doesn't get enough heat. Can it be fixed, or it just mean that the furnace is not power enough? And
can be a couple things. So it can be the furnace is not having enough like cubic feet per minute of air to the far room, and sometimes that just means maybe the line is choked, so there's too many elbows on the way there, or it could just that could be a whole separate so it has enough CFM, but all of a sudden it has too many elbows, so the air is not making it there. Air's finicky, right? So if there's too many elbows, you essentially lose within friction, you lose too much of that airflow.
You probably won't be able to fix that, but
sometimes you can
or cut it off, just redo all the stuff.
So sometimes it's very fixable, other times it's a little bit more. So.
And what numbers we're talking about? If it's about the furnace and you hear those problems which you mentioned before, how much should it set aside if something goes wrong?
It's been a while since I've billed anybody, but I think I would set it aside for a furnace just because you don't know what the problem is and you don't know what the timeline is for certain parts. I would always set aside at least, I would say $1,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but I think I would
1,000 for fixing.
For fixing, yeah. For something's wrong, and I want it fixed, and I want it fixed within the next 24 hours, kind of thing. So I would set aside 1,000 for that at least. I know that sounds like a high number, and hopefully it wouldn't be that much, but just as a worst case scenario, that's what I would do. I'm a little conservative on the numbers, so I like to
be safe. If you
just be safe.
Just be safe.
Yeah.
And again, while we're talking about furnace, what is the average lifetime, like longevity of the average unit?
Average furnace should last 15-ish years. That's probably a little bit short, but again, I like to be normal about it. Like if everything is working, I was just saying before to Alex that we looked at a 70s house, a 1970s house, and it still had the originals furnace. It was built in 71, and furnace was still running. It was probably running fine. And it's not as efficient as a new furnace for sure. And you're definitely going to notice that on your gas bill. But if it's still working, you're probably not going to pay for a new furnace anytime soon. Like you will over the course of about 15 years, but that's a long time to get that paid for, right?
And so how much the new furnace will cost you?
I think a new furnace now is probably going for close to 10 grand. So
it's all together, the furnace itself, the work, labor.
Yeah. If you're getting somebody else to install a furnace, it's probably around 10 grand. It's not cheap, unfortunately. which is why it's always a kick in the butt when you have a newer furnace and something does go wrong and you need it to be replaced. That's why I like kind of I feel better knowing that I would buy a place with an older furnace. So when it does go down, I'm at least prepared for that expense. And I don't feel so bad that, oh, this furnace is only 3 years old.
And
now I have to do a new one.
And by the way, if you do have like the older furnace, you can always negotiate the price, right? Because you know it's going to be sooner or later, it will fail.
Yeah.
And you'll have to replace it. So just kind of this piece of price you can cut off. So there are several types of systems. Yes, it's a heat pumps, it's a furnaces and boilers. What kind of benefits has each of them, or maybe cons? So
Sure.
What you can say about these?
So I grew up in a house with a boiler. It was great and it's lasted a super long time. I think it was close to 20 years it made it, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't add airflow, right? So we got in-floor heating, which is typically what a boiler will do. And the rooms with in-floor heating were great. They were warm all the time and it was awesome. The airflow in the house that we were living in wasn't great because there was nothing to push the air around, right? So it was kind of stagnant in some areas. I know the upstairs didn't make a lot of airflow, but it was still good. It was good heating. I would recommend supplementing that with some kind of fan that would at least circulate air in your house. Heat pumps are, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's possible. So for example, you're looking for a house which has boiler, which has in-floor heating. Can you install additionally the fan?
Yes.
So you can, even when you buy it, later on, you can just add it and have the better circulation.
There might be some ventilation install that you need to do, but typically there is ventilation. You just would need to tie into it. So it might not be a super cheap install. I've personally never done one, but I know it is possible. I know you know it can be done. So heat pumps, I think, are the future. We're just not quite there yet. I love the concept of a heat pump. A heat pump essentially takes heat from outside, regardless of how cold it is. Well, regardless of how cold it is, and will bring the latent heat into your house. And then it will be able to blow heat inside. And that works when it's minus 10, 15 even. And it will still find heat in that and it will be able to bring it into your house. I know it seems ridiculous that you can bring in heat from minus 15, but it does work. And so much has been done on heat pumps in the last 10 years and it just keeps getting better. In Alberta, we're not quite there yet. We have cold winters, right? Minus 20, minus 30, sometimes colder. So as a standalone heat system, I don't think it's perfect. If you are really intrigued by installing a heat pump in your house, I would recommend absolutely having supplemental heat, probably via a furnace, like a small furnace. So you wouldn't need as big of a furnace as you typically would, but on those cold days, a heat pump will not be enough to heat your house. But it'll be great because it also does cooling in the summer. So you have a little bit of AC-ish.
Again, about numbers, do you maybe have you installed recently how much it would be for somebody just to install heat pumps plus the supplementary furnace?
I would budget around the same, probably a little bit more than 10 grand. I would say it's more expensive. I haven't done one in a long time, so I don't know what exactly the price line is on them now. I know that they are better than they used to be. And I know that there's also government subsidies, if I'm not mistaken, for heat pumps still. There was at one point. I'm not sure if there still is, but I think there still is. It's like putting solar on or anything like that, somewhat similar to those government subsidies. So if you have access to those, then that would be most ideal for sure.
So everyone who is probably thinking about that, probably just go and try to look for at the official websites to find the numbers. If it's available just to get some money from the government, why not? Right?
Why not? Yeah. And then furnaces, my favorite, my most installed for sure. Best part about furnaces, they do it all. So they heat the air in your home and they circulate it, right? So they don't need supplemental heat. They don't need supplemental airflow. They do it all as a one package unit, which is great. So it's heated air, should be sent to all corners of your house. And if it's sized properly, then you'll never have an issue. So
And again, as you mentioned, so for example, you have the furnace that it doesn't deliver so much air as it should be to the first room. Or how you can check? For example, you have the house, you can calculate the cubic meters of the house, and you can look at the numbers on your furnace. For example, how many cubic centimeters or meters it produces. How you can compare? Is it any like numbers which you can multiply or divide and see?
Right. So there's like certain calculations that you have to do. They're really complex because it depends on your windows, depends on your doors, depends on the insulation quality that you have in the walls and in the ceiling. So it has to do with all those things. And if you improve any of those, you're essentially making your furnace have to work less hard. So your furnace does better, the better insulated your house is. So if you have single pane windows facing the outside of an older home, maybe upgrade to double pane or triple pane, and you will have your furnace will have a far easier time heating your whole house, and it'll have to work a lot less hard, probably increase the longevity of your furnace's life as well. So I know you're spending a few bucks on that, but I believe there's also subsidies for that as well. So
yeah, that's nice. So again, try to look for and try to find it. So we have basically, like, it's okay when you are building your own house and you can choose what kind of furnace or what kind of system you can put in. But when you buy an existing house, you have to deal with the system which is already installed. So the other thing, which is really important, is maintenance. So what kind of tips you can give us, tell how to maintain properly to get it last longer.
Yes.
And to reduce the bills.
So the biggest thing that you can do as a homeowner with next to no mechanical experience, just change your filters. That's the biggest one. So I know it sounds simple. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt. But if you change your filters every 3 to 4 months, you're putting your furnace in a much easier spot. It's working a lot less hard to try and blow through all the dust and all the debris that's accumulating on those filters. So it doesn't have to work as hard. And then just that's so simple. Like it's usually just a little slat. Sometimes you have to remove a little piece and put it back in. It usually slides. You don't even need screws typically. And then just slide it in, slide it out. It should be pretty simple.
How much does it cost? The filter itself?
Filters, I think are like, you can get a 4-pack for like $20 at Costco, I think. So,
and you will be charged about 500.
You'll probably get like an $80 bill if you're just for one filter if you're paying somebody to do it. So
80.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not so bad. I thought maybe more, but again, if you don't change your filter regularly, you'll probably get an issue with the furnace, which can cost you.
That will cost you $5,000.
$5,000.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing, change your filter regularly. What is next? Maybe.
Another one is just try to keep your ducts clean. So I know people with kids. Kids love dropping stuff down the little vents and stuff like that, and that is never good, especially if it can lead straight to the furnace, right? It typically doesn't, but there's always that risk. So don't drop stuff down the vents. Tell your kids not to drop stuff down the vents, and that should be that's easily tip number 2. I don't know if I have a third, to be honest, but
we can stay on this one.
Sure.
So, is it worth to clean your duct if it's possible? Or it's just marketing. You just call us and we'll clean the duct. And
I think
there is some particular spots where you just have to clean, and just if you said that you should clean like the whole line, just don't believe it.
I would say that it's probably for an average homeowner or home buyer that's just buying their first place. Maybe it's a newer place. You probably don't need to clean it, and you probably don't need to clean it super regularly unless you're doing some really messy, dusty stuff in the house. So some people I know have a little wood shop in the basement, and I would really recommend those people probably clean their ducts. I would say that people who are heavy smokers or like inside their house, I would say, or maybe you're buying a house that was smoked in heavily, I would recommend that you probably clean your ducts. Yeah. But that's probably more of a one-time thing. There are plenty of exceptions. But I would say that it's typically not always it was not a need to do every 2-3 years or anything like that, which I believe is what's marketed often.
Maybe the exception is the piece which goes from the dryer to the outside to exhaust. Yeah,
that's separate typically, but that's important. Sorry, I was going to talk about this. I told thank you for reminding me. So this ties back to a couple things actually. Quick thing that you can check is there's lots of different types of dryer ducts. So some of them are flexible, some of them are solid. And if it has screws in it, something's wrong. If it has screws in it, it should never have screws in it, specifically dryer duct. Every other duct can have screws in it, but dryer duct should not, because the lint can accumulate on the tips of the screws and it can clog your whole dryer line. Yeah, I know it seems like kind of big. Sometimes it can be about this. And I want to make sure that you know that if it has screws in it, just pull the screws out and you'll be way better off. That being said, oftentimes a dryer issue can stem from a clogged line. So if you have a dryer duct and it leaves your dryer and then it goes down and maybe back up and then curves a bunch of times, that's probably not great. You want it as straight as possible. Lint will get in there, right? You can't prevent that. So that's probably good to clean out semi-often, maybe once every 2 years or so.
Are there any specific signs which you can see or hear and tell, okay, this is clogged, you have to clean these kind of
so the easiest one for dryers are your clothes aren't getting dry.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's easy.
Yeah, it's very straightforward, right? So just at the place that I'm living in now, the vent was frozen closed. So it had frozen closed on the outside, and our clothes weren't getting dry. So I was like, well, this is a problem. I need to have dry clothes for work tomorrow. And all I'd need to do was go outside and I just hit a screwdriver and I just pried it open and it stayed open. And then when it warmed up a little bit, it was working normally again. So that the biggest sign is it's not working. It might not be your dryer. It might be the venting. So that's a good one, actually. I meant to talk about that and I totally forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thanks. And again, so in general speaking, what things like people usually don't pay attention to, but that can really cause a problem and cost them a lot of money? Because I know, probably because it's hidden inside the walls, inside the ceiling, you can see it really how it looks like. You don't pay attention, but there is a problem. Or maybe people do something that they think it's okay, but like in a few years, the furnace died.
I think the biggest one that I've seen is some people with varying experience of electrical, because furnaces they're electric, right? Like they need power from the electricity and they also need gas. I've never seen a lot of issues with the gas. There's some here and there, but those are pretty rare. But people will often, especially with old furnaces, put little jumper wires in instead of a breaker switch or something like that, right? So that's bad. Don't do electrical first work on your furnace. You can maybe hire an electrician, but I would recommend just hiring probably a sheet metal worker or a refrigeration tech to help fix it. So somebody who's specialized in that, because all sorts of people think they have electrical experience, and sure, it'll work, but it's not good for your furnace.
And what if we are lucky enough and we are buying the house which is under construction now, and we can come in every 2 weeks and see how it goes? What would you recommend to those people? Like every 2 weeks, we're coming in, we see the duct, we see like how they install the furnace, the unit. What's supposed just to look at regularly and see that it's really good.
Sure.
It's done properly.
So if you get a chance to go look at all the ducts, I would absolutely recommend going and looking in the furnace room specifically, because typically outside of the furnace room, that stuff in the main room that's running to maybe an upstairs bedroom or to a downstairs room or something like that. Typically, that's pretty straightforward. And those ducts should all be as straight line as possible. There will be 90-degree turns in them and everything like that. And that's totally fine to an extent. You want as least amount of turns as is necessary. So as is necessary might vary a lot. You know what I mean? So you might have to go up and then over and then out, and that's fine. That's where you had to go, right? And the furnace will be sized in according with that. So it'll be able to push that through all those turns. Where it goes a little sideways is if you have an up and an over 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 and then an up and then a down and all this stuff. And there's nothing that it's avoiding, or there's nothing that it needed to avoid. So most likely that wasn't accounted for. And those things don't need to be in a place where there is so many turns. And that's where you will get your bedroom on the far side of the house with no air in it. So, or no hot air at least anyway. So that's no good. And that's an easy one to check for. Just as straight as possible, as straight as normally possible.
Yeah, because usually probably you've seen the same one as I have seen, and we, for example, we as fire sprinklers, we usually go almost the last ones because the duct work has to be done first.
Yes.
So they go straight
Yep.
and then we can play around.
Exactly.
Because it's easy for us. We have smaller pipes. So it's...
If the ducts works in first and none of the plumbing stuff is yet, that's great. That's a good sign. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's a good sign that things went in the right order. So the people who are putting in the duct, which is usually larger than the plumbing pipe or the sprinkler lines or anything like that, it's typically better for the duct to go first just because it is so large and it needs that space. I won't say it's always done perfectly, and sometimes space isn't always left for sprinklers or plumbing or electrical. And I can't speak on that because some people are just, they run things the way they run them. And you can't always control everybody else, but
you can ask.
You can ask. Yeah. But if the duct is run first and the duct is run as straight as possible, that's a good sign.
And again, as you mentioned, you still do some works and some
here and there,
calls. So, what is the main service call, the major problem which you usually get?
The main one that I've dealt with is in your furnace. It's what's called a hot surface igniter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where essentially the spark comes from. They used to run actual sparks, and that was found to be less efficient than these hot surface igniters, and they just decay over time. And if you are really, even you don't have to be handy, you can just ask your furnace provider or whoever's providing your service for your furnace for this, and just ask to order another one that you can just have on hand. You can pay for it. You can even look up the furnace number that you have and order that hot surface igniter so that the service tech has it when they come. So that's the most common one that I've seen. I know there's some other ones, but I just don't see them as often.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an easy one, and it's typically an easy fix. But if you have a more unique furnace, sometimes that part can be hard to get.
And again, can we say some numbers? For example, if you are called in just to change, maybe people didn't know what was happening, but you came in and just see, okay, we have to change this igniter.
Normal hours, probably like $150-ish, but if you're calling after hours, which is typical, I mostly just get calls in the summer, which is great, right? But I don't do the calls on when it's -30 in the winter. That's going to be a big increase on that price, right? So if you have that part already, then you don't have to pay for that part again. You can pay for it when it's good, and then you just have to pay for the labor later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just pay attention and have at least this part aside somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, so you
that's
don't
what I
have
would
to worry.
recommend. Yeah.
And can you summarize, for example, for all of us, for all of those people who are thinking now or later on just to buy a house, which kind of attitude and just to have when you step into your house, negative, positive, and what to look for? Basically, you can, if you don't mind, just go through all of them,
Sure.
all the spots, and just have the basic idea.
Right. I love coming into a house that feels like I could live in it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's what everybody who's buying a house feels like. I'm sure they want a place that they feel like they can live in. So they don't want little imperfections in the drywall. I'm sure maybe a little bit of a lived-in thing where kids' heights are marked on the walls or something like that. That's fine, right? That's not the same as having something installed incorrectly. So I look at stuff like that, and that brings me a little bit of joy. It's like a peek into your future. You know what I mean? For a lot of people. And I like having no cosmetic issues, because when the cosmetic issues, like we were talking about before, with the drywall, with the flooring, with maybe some of the window seams aren't quite perfect, when stuff like that stands out to me, it gives me that good enough feeling, and I don't like that good enough feeling. That makes me worry that, okay, well, if I'm going to spend a huge amount of money on this house, right? Like this is a massive investment. It's most people's biggest investment in their life, right? So if I'm going into a place, I want everything to be perfect. I don't want something to be good enough. I don't want somebody to say, okay, that was good enough, I'm just going to leave it there. And then you still have to pay the same as if they would have spent the extra time on it and done it perfectly, right? So and that, unfortunately, that's always just a little bit up in the air. You never know based on who you hire. You can go off reviews on Google and whatever you need to, but you truly do never know 100%. And I like to look for all those little cosmetic issues, because that tells me, or gives me a hint at least, about what's behind the drywall, what's above the ceiling space and everything like that. Where, especially if you don't know what to look for in an HVAC system or in a furnace, then okay, well, I'm just going to look for this little imperfection in the drywall, how this corner tile is lined up, and how all these little things work that I can see that are cosmetic, and then I will have a better idea of what's behind the drywall.
Yeah, because probably every company has a supervision on each side.
Yeah,
the company which are reliable, and those signs just tell you that supervision wasn't done properly.
Exactly.
So they miss this thing. So
and if supervision wasn't done properly, then maybe the person running the site wasn't done properly.
Absolutely.
Maybe the apprentice wasn't taught properly, right? So there's all these layers of things that they cascade, right? So each thing gets worse as somebody doesn't do their job, and that comes from the top down.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, but this is a huge investment.
Yes.
Even if you want to change later on, you would probably, if it's a great house, you would probably leave it as a rental one and just rent it out and build your stack, right?
Yeah.
Build your wealth. Why not? It's one way to be set up in this life, right? For real estate.
I know for me that like I look at buying a house and I want to live there for 10, 15 years.
At least.
Right? At least, right? So I want to make sure everything lasts, and there is routine maintenance, and maybe that does include a $10,000 new furnace or a new hot water tank or any of these things, but I don't want to be spending those things twice in that time period, right?
Absolutely. And speaking forward about those people who probably are looking forward or thinking of joining the trades, what would you say for them about your trade? Maybe how good or bad it is, what they can get there. Maybe some numbers. Yeah, for example, if someone considering join the HVAC trade,
sure,
what they can make.
Yeah,
as soon as they get the ticket, because the prices
varies on apprentices for sure. So I think roughly going rate right now for a journey person sheet metal worker is $43 an hour. It's not the highest. It's definitely not the lowest.
It's probably like average.
I think it's pretty mid-range. But that being said, I have never been out of work as a sheet metal worker. I know there's a lot of trades where they become super saturated. I know some electrician friends, and they are great. They are great at what they do, but they can't find work right now because there's so many electricians. And right now they can find work, but at times in the past they've struggled to find work, regardless of how good they are. That being said, I feel like I've learned so many different things through this trade specifically. And I feel like it's so broad that you can specialize in one area and still learn so much about different areas. So we can do, sheet metal work can do air conditioners, they can do furnaces, they can do heat pumps, they can do just install. So if you go into a restaurant, like maybe some kind of pub or something like that, you'll see the ducts in the air. We hung that, right? So we can do that. You can do a lot of welding. So all the railings you see, those stainless railings you see in all like the big buildings with open floors and stuff, that was most likely done by a sheet metal worker. There's all the kitchen exhaust ducts in every restaurant you go to. That's all done by a sheet metal worker. Sheet metal workers make the hoods for your venting for your stove, whether it's residential or whether it's commercial or industrial. And you get to do so many different things. Like most companies that will hire you, you won't get to do all of it at once. But if you kind of get to bounce around from company to company, maybe there's a good job offering in Calgary. Maybe there's a good job offering in Banff. Maybe there's a good job offering in Edmonton or up north. Like there's also a lot of industrial work for sheet metal workers where the pay goes up quite a bit. You're working more hours, but the pay goes up. That's like Fort Mac and all the oil refinery places. So there's tons of opportunities, and there's so many broad things you can do in this trade. Our duct goes all the way from 4-inch round, like this big, to I've seen as big as I think the biggest I saw was 108 inches wide by I think 92 inches long. So it gets huge as well, right? So there's so much you can do, and so many places you can work. I think the big job that's coming up in Calgary is the Scotiabank, the new arena there, and that will take a lot of sheet metal workers, and they'll probably hire a lot of apprentices as well. So if you're thinking about getting into the trade, now is a great time. Great time. Yeah.
Just bring your attitude, your dedication, because again, even if you're gonna learn a lot, just ask your employer to give you a chance to practice all of these things.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you will just stuck with the narrow specific field. And
I have a good example of that actually. So I had never done TIG welding on stainless until I had done it in school because we learned it in school. And when somebody asked, is like, hey, we're going to do some layoffs here, but can anybody do TIG welding? We need another TIG welder. I put up my hand and I was like, I can do TIG welding. And they're like, oh, okay, Nate, sounds good. You're coming TIG welding with us. I'm like, all right, sounds good. Like this is great. And that it kept me in my job, right? So there's so many broad things. You just have to be brave enough to ask and humble enough to ask questions. So like there was a lot of learning, big learning experience. It wasn't like I was an expert in this. I wasn't perfect at it at first. Probably still not perfect. There's still so much I can learn. Like I will not say that I'm an expert in everything of my trade, which means there's still so much that I am able to learn and able to ask people who are experts questions, and never be afraid to do that. That's probably my biggest piece of advice for somebody getting into the trades in general, is just ask those questions, ask and ask and ask. I would say ask them over and over again.
And I always advocate for the business itself. Just become a businessman and just work on your own. I know not everyone loves it, but again, when the trade is so wide, so broad, you can pick your thing which you love and just work on it by yourself.
Absolutely.
And find your clients, build your business book, and just enjoy your life.
Yeah. There's so much to do, and the trades needs more people right now in general. And there's so many opportunities to maybe work 40 hours-ish a week for somebody. And then there's all the evenings and weekends. If you're really hungry and you want a little bit extra cash on the side, then you have that opportunity, you have that time to go and start your own business, to go and fix a couple furnaces on a weekend, to do whatever you need to do, right? Whatever, if you need more money, if you need a little bit more experience, then there's people who are offering or asking for helpers on stuff like that all the time. So just ask.
Just ask.
Just ask. Yeah.
So guys, I hope you really enjoyed and you will find lots of valuable information from our chat today, and join us, stay with us. We'll do more cool stuff. And Nate, thank you so much,
Alex. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Enjoy it.